Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is Hunter from Outtenastrophotography. Join me tonight as we're going after another deep sky object, and we're going to be going into the southern portions of the sky of a planetary nebula I've been wanting to image for quite a while, but I didn't really have the good enough horizon to myself to be able to do that. So join me tonight as we're going after the Helix Nebula, or also known as the Eye of Sauron. Now this is a pretty easy target for the most part because it's a planetary nebula that is so large and fairly bright for the most part, with only being like a magnitude 7 something, but its apparent size is what makes it a spectacular target to go after. But the biggest problem I had when I was living a little bit closer towards the coastlines was the fact that I didn't really have a good southern horizon. But now here at my house we're able to do so, but unfortunately we won't be able to use our pier that we have set up in the backyard because I am still dealing with a lot of trees, at least over towards my south. So we have to go over towards the side yard for this target, especially being in the constellation of Aquarius. Now, like I mentioned, the Helix Nebula is a very large planetary nebula located in the constellation of Aquarius, and it's actually a fairly close relative to us, being only at about 790 light years from Earth. So in retrospective, for a nebula, that's pretty darn close for us for the most part. Now, the nice part is, even though we do have a first quarter moon right now, and we're starting to approach on the full moon coming up here and this upcoming weekend, luckily this target is pretty easy to do, especially if you have a dual narrowband filter, and that's exactly what we are going to be using because that's the only filter we're going to need. Now, the Helix Nebula is a very cool one, to say the least. It's basically a oversized version of the Ring Nebula, but it has great structure there in the center. It has one of the first ones to be actually able to look at knots inside of the nebula in itself, and plus it's a great target for something like a small refractor. So let's go ahead and see what we are going to be working with tonight. Now tonight, if you notice, I am not using my ultra wide field setup anymore. I've switched back to my refractor. So tonight we're going to be using the Explorer Scientific 102mm triplet refractor. I do have it reduced down to an f5.6 from the f7 that is associated with this refractor in general, roughly at about 576mm. And of course, we're going to be using our trusty ZWO AN5 Strainway gear mount on top of the ZWO TC40 tripod. I know, it's been a while since I've had to use this because I don't have a secondary pier out here in the side yard. And of course, imaging tonight, I'm going to be using the ZWO ASI 2600 MC Pro, which is a one-shot color camera. Inside of the filter wheel here, I will be using a fairly narrowband filter from Optolong, the Optolong L Ultimate, which is a 3nm bandpass for hydrogen alpha and oxygen 3. Of course, being controlled with the ASI Air Plus. And for guiding, going to be using my planetary camera, the ASI 174mm, with the SV Bony 60mm guide scope. And also something else fairly new too I've been experimenting with the 3D printer I have, is a little bit of some star spikes. Now, I did get to see a little bit of this with M71 from a couple of nights ago when I had a little bit of some clear skies, but it produced some pretty cool images overall. So that is what we are going to be setting up with tonight. Now, funny enough, I've actually been trying to image this target the last 2 nights in a row now during the Perseid meteors, but we've been having a lot of issues with passing clouds coming through all hours of the night because we're still stuck underneath the jet stream, even though temperatures have significantly dropped now, only in the 60s at night to compare to almost 80s like about a week ago. And during the daytime it's only been in the 80s as well, and we're still kind of having the same issue too with dealing with some passing clouds. So I've actually started this target 2 nights ago, and hopefully tonight I'll be able to kind of have enough data to have a salvageable image. So let's go ahead and wait for nightfall so we can go ahead and pull align our rig and get ready for our image sequence. And before getting into the processing, we're going to talk about today's sponsor, Outtenastrophotography. Are you ready to take your astrophotography to the next level? At Outtenastrophotography, we've got the perfect 3D printed solutions to enhance your stargazing experience. Welcome to Outtenastrophotography on Etsy, your go-to shop for custom 3D printed accessories designed specifically for astrophotography. We know that capturing the beauty in the night sky requires more than just a great camera. It requires the right tools and setup. From cable management solutions for your deep sky cooled cameras to mounts for your mini computers or accessories that are designed to make your astrophotography setup smoother and more efficient. Each product is crafted from durable PETG material built to withstand the extremes of hot, cold, and dew-filled nights, but also designed to handle the toughest conditions so you can focus on capturing those breathtaking celestial moments without worrying about your gear. Whether you're an amateur stargazer or a seasoned astrophotographer, Outtenastrophotography has a little something for everyone as we continue to grow our selection. Explore a range of accessories and discover how we can enhance your night sky adventures. Visit us today at Outtenastrophotography on Etsy and find your perfect accessory to elevate your astrophotography experience. Let us know how we can help you reach the stars. Alright, now that I'm back here at the computer, I have gone ahead and stacked the data that we have, roughly at about 6 hours worth of HA and O3. I'm going to go back in the steps from the very beginning, where we just have it right out of the stack. Did a little bit of some background extraction, did some blur exterminator, as well as a little bit of some denoise, and I went ahead and cropped the area here that I'm going to use, especially there in the center. Now the next thing we're going to do is to extract the channels, but there is a very easy way of doing that now. Just going over towards Script, Utilities, and something known as DBXtract. Now I'll just go ahead and use the sensor that I have, the IMX571, and select the one that has the HA03 to. So there we go. And we're going to go ahead and basically create an like SHO, HOO, or SAO, whatever. It's just going to extract the channels for us so we don't have to do it manually. So let that run for a moment because we're going to combine the channels ourselves too, which ends up having this SHO. We're not going to use that at all. Now we have our hydrogen alpha and O3 channels. So we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of some unlinked stretches for both of them so we can go ahead and combine them together. So there's our hydrogen alpha. And then here is our oxygen. So now the next thing to do is go ahead and combine them. We're just going to do some LRGB combination. And we're going to drag over our HA for luminance. HA for red, O3 for green, and for blue. Go ahead and apply global. We'll do a little bit of some chromatic noise reduction too. I always like to do that anyway, just so we get a nice image in the end. So this is going to take a moment to do so, but when we come back, we'll be able to continue on. And there we go. We have combined our images here, and it looks like we have what looks like an HOO palette. So I'm going to stick these other files out of the way. And we're going to go ahead and remove the stars from the background itself so we can actually work on the nebulosity using Star Exterminator. So I'm going to let that run here for a moment. There we go. We have safely removed the stars. We're going to go ahead and just rename this as stars. And then put it up towards the side. Now, next thing we're going to do is work on a little bit of nebulosity. I'm going to do another round of some noise exterminator here, so we can kind of even out the background a little bit. There we go. Now, we can go over to narrowband normalization here. Be able to, pick different color combinations that we have. Like with HOO, we have this mode where it's just like, yellow and blue. You have the classic one here of the red and green. And then you also have another mode here of basically the same thing as mode 1. But I like to do everything myself too. This is kind of just like a cheat sheet ahead. So next thing we're going to do is work on the overall structure here. So I'm going to do a little bit of some sharpening here, which is using the Advanced Sharpen tool that is built into Pixinsight. Let that run. There we go. And we're going to do a little bit of some saturation. So we're going to use the range mask here. And we're just going to make our mask to accompany the helix in itself. Get it so it's just only affecting the nebulosity in itself. And then we'll go ahead and apply that to our image and start opening up the curves transformation. I'm just going to work on that saturation to kind of bring out that nice cool color. I do like the inside though. It's kind of like that ghostly white, but I don't like the green in the center, which I'm going to be using a little bit of some SCNR to kind of, mitigate that. We're just going to have to constantly keep working with this. The same mask that I have here, I actually want to do it to the background. There was a decent amount of moonlight for this, unfortunately, so it is showing. So I'm just going to go ahead and start darkening up the background a little bit here. There we go. That looks much better. So now we don't need this mask anymore. I'm going to go ahead and make another mask there for the center, so I can change the colors of it. So I want to get inside where that O3 structure is. Add a lot of fuzziness to it. Put that on top. Go over to our SCNR. And I'm going to be quite aggressive with it and just put it all on top. So there we go. That changed it to that nice blue. Then we're also going to go into the saturation tab. I'm going to add a little bit more bluish to that structure. Kind of have that nice little ghostly look to it. And of course adds some saturation to it. There we go. It's already looking pretty good right now, but the core is still a little bit too bright, so I am going to be using a little bit of some HDR, which is inside the Pixinsight Toolbox. All the processes I've been using today, I will leave links to the repository. A lot are free,
but some are some paid tools, like anything of the exterminator wise, like blur exterminator, noise exterminator, and star exterminator, but everything else is completely free to be able to use. So going inside of Script Toolbox, you're going to find Create HDR Image. And we can actually use the mask too that we've created for this. I just have to remember what is the name of the mask, and I think it's just range mask. So we can only focus on the middle. As you see, it already looks much better there in the center. Also add a little bit more saturation if I wanted to. Or a little bit some contrast to really bring out the center. And that looks pretty good right there. Going ahead to replace the image. Alright, so that is done. I think that looks pretty good for the Helix in itself. We'll go ahead and start working on the stars, which you notice there is a little bit of some like magenta color here. There is a nice little built-in tool under Scripts, Utilities, and you're able to find correct magenta stars. Go ahead and run that. So you're left with our stars here. Also would like to run SCNR because green in stars does not exist. So do it for the regular layer and make sure to invert it with Control I, and do it for the foreground too. So there we have it. Gonna go and make a star mask now. Processes, all processes, star mask, because I want to add a little bit of some saturation to my stars now that I have got rid of the green and that weird magenta color in these stars. So we're going to go ahead and plop that over. Reopen back up our curves transformation. And I'm going to zoom into a little bit, especially like these color stars here. I'm going to go ahead and increase that saturation to right about there. That looks pretty good. Alright, so we have our stars. We have our background nebula. Now let's go ahead and combine them. So rename this one Starless. And go over to use a little bit of some PixelMath that I have to recombine stars and to rescreen them. I'll also have the Pixinsight math in the description below. So let's go ahead and combine them. There we go. Now we have this image here. And it looks pretty darn good. We can do some further adjustments to this, especially if you go into like the histogram. You know, want to bump it up a little bit more and make the background a little bit darker. And there we go. And there is our final image here of the Helix Nebula. First time doing this here in my backyard. So thank you everyone for watching. As always, make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe to the channel. We got more videos on the way here very soon as I'm testing a new product from ZWO that I think you're really going to like, especially if you're into planetary photography. So thank you as always. Be sure to check out Outtenastrophotography for everything for your astrophotography needs when it comes to the Sea Star, the Dwarf 2, or just some cable management options. And you can always message them to be able to do any custom ideas that you may like. As always, clear skies, and I will see you in the next video.